Wow, well, Donald Trump is announcing his reciprocal tariffs. Now, there's a lot, these updates coming out literally just within the last minute here. So I'm going to read off some of these headlines and then we'll break down what we think all of this means so we can understand the implications of all of this. As usual, there are expectations that on one hand, this is just a negotiation. On the other hand, if they're not, they could cause a recession. All this nonsense. We'll break this all down in just a moment and simplify this. But let's go ahead and start with some of the details that we have here. So first, Donald Trump says he's decided to charge reciprocal tariffs. We've already heard about that. Basically, his argument is if you charge us a tariff, we will tariff you. Now, what's interesting is he's actually now changed the definition of a tariff a little bit in that he's arguing VAT taxes or value-added tariffs, or sorry, value-added taxes will be considered a form of a tariff. So for example, if you sell American-made Texas Instrument calculators for, I don't know, $10 in Europe, and they charge a VAT tax of 18%, then that could be potentially seen as a tariff. So Donald Trump is making the argument that any country that adds value-added taxes could have tariffs. So Canada sits at about 5%, just to list a few. Japan and Australia are at 10%. Switzerland, 8.1%. Luxembourg, 18%. Germany, Cyprus, Romania, 19%, right? These are all the value-added taxes that they have, right? I just want to be clear. It's not like Trump is saying, oh, yeah, that's going to be the tax amount here. And I'll explain sort of what they're announcing here. This is just to give you an idea of what the value-added taxes are. Most of these are honestly in Europe, the value-added taxes. Poland, Portugal, Slovakia, those are all 23%ers. Italy, Slovenia, Estonia, they're 22. The Netherlands are 21. Austria is over there, and what's Austria? Austria is 20, along with France and the UK. And you've got Croatia up at 25, with Denmark and Sweden, Finland 25.5, Norway 25, Iceland 24, Greece 24, Ireland 23, Hungary 27. So when you look at these, it's actually really interesting because, see, Donald Trump has this sort of imperialistic strategy of, hey, we want to get our hands on Greece and we want to get our hands on maybe even Canada, right? And so by calling a value-added tax a potential tariff that he wants to equalize, you're basically going to have to go through each country, say, all right, well, your value-added tax is 18%. You're getting an 18% tax, right? Now, in America, we don't have a value-added tax. You know, in some areas, yep, I see your comments here. It is called like a GST as well. You know, here in America, we have sales taxes, but they're usually state and local, right? You got sort of your state sales tax, and you add on a little bit for local. So a little different. Maybe they'll measure the difference between the two. But Donald Trump here says that he's going to consider the value-added tax system as a whole as a tariff. And that's what these tariffs are going to be based on. So they'll compare it to that. Then Trump says we will be sending, if you send merchandise through another country to avoid the tariffs, that will not be accepted. He also says if you have, certain things that we don't want to tax you with in a monetary way, we may implement non-monetary tariffs. So for example, they might require regulation on cars or tests on cars, they're saying, that are imported from other countries. Now this is really interesting because it expands this whole idea of the tariff war as not just one that is specifically on, hey, here's the amount, you know, a 25% hit to Mexico and Canada. Instead, it's like, hey, you know, you guys charge a VAT. You know what? You also send us cars. You know what we're going to do? We're going to tax you, basically, by requiring that your cars that you send us are, how should you put it, basically now having to undergo certain, you know, who knows, EPA regulation rules or whatever, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de. So we'll see. Now, there'll be a news conference on this as well, so we'll stay tuned for that. But let's go through some more of these details here. Trump says that non-monetary tariffs will exist. the provisions will also include limitations on trade. He says that Lutnick will go through basically country by country. It's almost sort of like a line by line that they're going to go through. And they will come up with exactly what tariffs each country is going to get. So to some extent, they're a little bit kicking the can down the road. Understandable, because they're coming from the point of view of, hey, you know, we're going to take the Secretary of Commerce and say, take every single country that has a VAT tax or some form of tariff, come up with a fair number for that country and assign it to them. Now, what Donald Trump says he's looking for is this idea of leveling the playing field or some form of equality of tariffs. So this is interesting because he gives this example of the EU in his statement. He says that the EU lowered its tariffs to 2.5%. That's a big win. So what he's referring to here are cars. The European Union used to charge, and technically still does, this hasn't really changed just yet, but technically the European Union has been charging a 10% tariff on American cars that are imported. So like Fords that go to Europe, 10% tariff, right? Well, the United States only charges a 2.5% tariff on EU cars coming in. So this is where a lot of people are saying, okay, why is there a 7.5% difference here? Donald Trump has been pressuring the European Union, and the European Union is expected to reduce tariffs on American vehicles to just 2.5%. And so now you're equal, right? So you were at, we get taxed at 10%, they tax at 10%. Now we're equalizing it to 2.5. Now you don't have an imbalance anymore. And the idea is that, hey, if you get to balance, you don't actually need to tariff that country anymore. So Trump isn't, at least is what he's saying, he's not trying to make this argument that, oh, you know, we should tariff other countries more than they tariff us. Instead, he's saying we should just equal it out or level the playing field again, or his words. So then in other comments here, it says Lutnick will come up with numbers equivalent to those limitations and other non-tariff barriers. Other countries can reduce tariffs or eliminate. So in other words, if you don't want a reciprocal, tariff, basically, sort of a tit for tat tariff, then just get rid of the tariffs you have on us. He says that he wants to bring fairness back. We're going to address each country one by one. Mr. Greer says we're going to look at everything, including fake antitrust regimes. This will be over and above the steel tariffs, by the way. This will include cars and pharmaceuticals. So there will be car tariffs coming soon. He is signing this via a memorandum to introduce the reciprocal tariff plan. And basically, every country, line by line, they're asking the Secretary of Commerce to just go out and give us a strategy for each country. And then they'll just slowly announce tariffs over and over and over again. Okay, interesting. So somebody says, does that mean BMWs will be cheaper? Well, technically, it just means that American cars going to Europe would be cheaper. Also, a lot of like Beamers, for example, are manufactured in the United States to try to circumvent some of these tariffs anyway in the first place, right? So keep that in mind. The White House says they're not ruling out a flat tariff sort of on the global stage, just like everybody has to pay the U.S. at least 2% to do business with us or whatever, 2% for the big guy, so to speak. Commerce Department, U.S. Trade Rep will quickly submit a report detailing proposed remedies on a country-by-country basis, not ruling out a flat tax. Presidential memorandum addresses both tariffs and non-tariff barriers. Lack of reciprocity is one source of large and persistent U.S. trade deficit. So basically, Trump is saying this lack of equality in the taxing that we have is one of the reasons why we have such a large trade deficit. He says reciprocal trade tariffs will be based on individual partners. They will take into account value-added taxes charged by other countries. Tariffs will factor in other countries' exchange rates, taxes, tariffs, and non-tariff barriers. Anything that unfairly limits, basically trade with the, these other countries. Okay, let's see here. Then we have, White House, Trump will no longer tolerate the EU's value-added tax, which nearly triples the EU's tariff rate on U.S. exports. Right. Well, so this is why I was saying, like, the VAT taxes, it's basically a direct attack on Europeans because they're the ones who use mostly this value-added tax. Again, most of the countries I read off earlier here were European or Eastern European countries. Slovakia, Italy, Slovenia, Estonia, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Iceland, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Croatia, Hungary. Those were just some of the largest ones. Of course, the UK, France, Germany, they're all in there as well. Okay, then we have tariffs will use the statutory authorities that apply to any given country, including sections 232, 301, or Emergency Powers Acts, hoping to have discussions with other countries to negotiate, basically, to negotiate lower tariffs where they can be. Yeah, again, this is the thesis that, hey, if we can negotiate and get something out of this, then great. Higher tariffs are not the biggest problem in many, if not most cases. Then we have, let's see here, expect reciprocal tariffs to help balance the U.S. budget. No specific sum that they're looking for. U.S. interest rates are going to be going down, says Donald Trump. That's really interesting because you've got Loretta Mester on.
Inflation won't start to move down later this year.
And she's literally talking about that, and she's talking about, essentially she's talking about how, inflation's still too high. They still have work to do. But it's interesting seeing these comments from Trump at the same time here. Trump will use statutory authorities that apply to any given country. Having discussions with other countries. Higher tariffs are not the biggest problem. Okay, let's see here. India has more tariffs than nearly any other countries. Asked if consumers can expect higher prices, he says not necessarily. Expect jobs to go up. Prices could go up somewhat in the short term, says Trump. Interest rates are going to go down. U.S. judge extends pause on Trump admin's plan to put USAID workers on leave until Feb 21. So that's another 8 days, basically. Yeah, 8 days. Lutnick is now announcing that the studies for tariffs should be done by April 1st. He says we will be ready to go then. Trump says airlines are trying to help, airlines are asking Trump for help with the EU fees that they have to pay. Makes sense. Traveling to Europe in a plane is expensive for the plane companies, the airline companies. All right. Trump, Canada has been tough on military, but they're not paying enough. Trump says he expects a lot of countries' tariffs to stay the same. However, Canada is paying the lowest fee for NATO, and he doesn't expect any exemptions or waivers. The Ukrainian war has to end. Ukraine would have a seat at any peace negotiation along with Russia, says Donald Trump. So in other words, not excluding anyone from these negotiations on Ukraine. Let's see here. We've got Musk met with Modi, wants to do business in India. I mean, he's done that in the past, too. Elon Musk meeting with Modi, I don't think that's too much of a surprise. We've heard that frequently before. Elon Musk has sort of been touring the world going, yeah, maybe one day we'll build a factory here. I think he's still kind of hunting for what the best way is for them to... for Tesla to profit off of relations with other countries. But in fairness, I think you're still in a place where you're kind of like, okay, well, do you have enough sales for Teslas? I mean, if you look at what's going on with Tesla sales, at least in January, it's not that great, right? Consumers are sort of getting beat up. So yeah, it's understandable that Musk wants to do business in India, but what are you going to do? You're going to sell them cars? If people don't want the cars, it's a little harder. Now, I mean, I think Tesla will get through this sort of rough patch and this volatility, especially since they have opportunities in robotics and energy. But I do know that this is something that a lot of people are concerned about who are close watchers there of Tesla. So anyway, especially since, this car tariff thing is going to be interesting. How could car tariffs potentially affect Tesla? That's going to be another one to pay attention to. So there's supposed to potentially be a news conference. I don't know, but these are the memorandum updates that we got here. We also have apparently now an update that one of Musk's staffers is working to overhaul the government. Arrived at the IRS on Thursday to examine its operations. Oh man, I'm gonna tweet that. There you go. Breaking: Doge just arrived at the IRS. Oh no, what will they find at the IRS? 80,000 IRS agents playing Rust. So anyway, okay, interesting. These give you an update on some of the updates on tariffs. It also looks like there's interesting. Elon Musk retweets, "Get ready to meet the newest member of the family. Apple launch February 19th." So now people are speculating that there could be a partnership between Apple and Tesla. It'd be interesting. I think if you could bring, this is probably something like bringing Apple CarPlay to Teslas. That would be really nice. Should be done via a software update. Wouldn't be that hard to do. My guess, Apple CarPlay finally coming to Tesla would be amazing. Okay, so Donald Trump also now says the TikTok deadline could be extended for the sale and that he's hoping to make a deal on TikTok. So far, it looks like Elon Musk has suggested he's not interested in buying TikTok. People had speculated that maybe Elon would be interested. I know that J.D. Vance also, just sort of worth noting if you haven't heard of it yet, J.D. Vance got a lot of attention for his remarks on artificial intelligence. And this is sort of like kind of, in a way, another protectionist move. Right? Tariffs are considered protectionist, which basically the goal is to bring more money to the United States and to minimize the flow of money to other countries or manufacturing to other countries or jobs to other countries. And so J.D. Vance at a conference in Paris 2 days ago said that American AI technology needs to be the gold standard, that excessive regulation could kill this transformative industry just as it's taking off in the United States, that we need to have AI regulation be free from ideology, and we want pro-worker artificial intelligence. We don't want to take workers away. But he wants chips to be built in the U.S. by U.S. chips. This is one of the reasons why you're seeing companies like Oklo and Intel do so well, because J.D. Vance is pushing, we need reliable power, we need manufacturing and power in the United States. And yes, robotics are going to change the future, trajectory essentially of America, but we want to be a part of that manufacturing here in America. And I think this sort of push about manufacturing in America is one of the reasons maybe why, and these sort of tariffs, maybe one of the reasons why you're seeing some up movement here on Enphase right now. If you just jump into the sticks here, Enphase has been a complete dog stock, especially since Trump looked like he was likely to win, and then of course his victory. Enphase has just gotten absolutely destroyed because of the idea of sort of the anti-green new scam, right? Enphase still has incredibly high margins. They're slowly returning to growth, and a lot of people think that, hey, maybe there's a chance there's some upside of this one. It's just hard to, there's no momentum in this space right now, so it's really hard to bet on that. I love Enphase. I think the valuation is great. The fundamentals are great. The money they make is great. Cash flow is great. The margins are excellent. The product is excellent. Everything about the company is great. But when it comes to the stock, it's just not sexy right now. What is sexy is app loving. This is incredible. I mean, look at this. In 2023, this stock was selling for $27. This is, you're at like, what, a 20x or something here on app loving. And they're making money like crazy right now. You look at some of their latest earnings, they have figured out how to monetize AI on apps and with advertising And it's incredible the kind of cash flows that they're generating right now. Now, does it make sense to yeet in at $460 when, the entire market's been a little euphoric? Well, I mean, that's ultimately up to everybody individually. But the valuation is not terrible. It's probably like a 2.2 peg right now for a software company. It's not bad. And the Qs are kind of in a little bit of a wedge over here in the corner, but they're trying to move up. You're not actually seeing a lot of negative movement on tariff talk. In fact, if you look at my Meet Kevin lines here, you can see not only did we break out of one of my favorite lines this morning, this is this is the descending trend. This is the ascending trend. We have two lines, larger lines going. But then we rejected my higher line. Then we bounced off the lower line. We're going back. So the lines are back at it again. Okay, more updates here from Trump. Trump asked about Doge arriving at the IRS, says Doge is doing a great job. Taiwan took our chip business away. We want that back. Not concerned about countries shifting business to China. Manhattan attorney has just resigned. Oh, yeah, because Donald Trump is also going after like Letitia James and stuff like that in New York. And Kathy Hochul going after her as well. Let's see here. Says he trusts Putin on Ukraine war, believes he wants peace. So, okay, just wait now. The mainstream media is going to quote very soon. Donald Trump says he trusts Putin. Trump is saying he trusts that Putin wants peace. Okay, everybody can sort of take that as they'd like. I mean, that sounds optimistic. Trump says he will make it worthwhile for China to approve the TikTok sale. Here's Intel, by the way. Intel's been very, very lowly valued for a while. It's sort of been scraping along the bottom over here. You've got many, many factories that Intel is building in the United States, heavily in part funded by the CHIPS Act and Biden bucks. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, is Donald Trump going to take those Biden bucks away? I actually don't think so. I think that it's quite likely that Donald Trump is actually going to maintain U.S. manufacturing tax credits. I actually think that's one of the things that's bullish about Enphase, is that, I don't think he wants to punish manufacturing in the United States. Enphase literally moved its manufacturing, mostly from Romania, a lot now to the United States to capture those tax credits in the U.S. Do you really want to kill those jobs by taking away manufacturing tax credits? I'm not sure about that. Now, consumer tax credits, I could see those getting reduced. But the manufacturing side, I think a lot of those will end up staying. And this is sort of the common joke. People joke like, okay, Republicans pass tax cuts and Democrats, pass stimulative measures like government handouts. But then Republicans don't want to get rid of all of the handouts because then it's seen as like increasing taxes on stuff. So UK VAT taxes incoming is a comment here from Insightful Politics. Yeah, probably. And the UK, they barely just snuck out a recession, 0.1% GDP. It is entirely likely that they will be in a recession very soon. So also keep that in mind. The United Kingdom is not scot-free here of a recession. They've had a rough time since about the summer. Is that a World of Warcraft Warglaive behind you? Hell yeah. Scott Downard says, yes, Putin's idea of peace. Interesting. So, never forget the lines. Ivy League trader talks about my lines. We talk about them every single day in the course member live streams. What are your thoughts on Eric Trump pumping Ethereum? I don't actually know how much Eric Trump knows about Ethereum himself. I think that, frankly, there are a lot of people who donated a lot of money to the Trumps and helped them get elected. And now these are part of kind of the return favors, honestly. I'm not saying good, bad, or what. I'm just saying, sometimes I see those tweets from Eric Trump and I'm like, all right, you had to scratch somebody's back who helped scratch yours. So, that's just the thesis that I have. Trump would love to have Russia back in the G7. It was a mistake to kick them out. Okay, all right. So this is really interesting because, the G7, this is supposed to be your sort of world leaders of economic and military power. And you've got the permanent 5 members as well, and nuclear powers. This is a big deal. It always used to include Russia. And the idea was that, hey, when we have the group of 7 and we can actually negotiate with all of these interests laid out together, then maybe we're not actually alienating anyone to where they have to go kooky dookie and potentially do something rash like invading Ukraine. Now, in fairness, Russia got kicked out afterwards, but I think Donald Trump sees a path for them potentially coming back. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me correct that. Russia was actually not kicked out after Ukraine. They were kicked out after Crimea. I want to clarify that. So I think Donald Trump is making the argument that the catalyst for Ukraine could have been avoided if you actually kept Russia in the G7, where you could actually give Russia a voice to, address its grievances in front of the other, G7 members, basically. So, you have Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the United States. And then now you've kind of got the EU filling in for Russia, but people are like, this is bullcrap. It doesn't give you that sort of balanced view. What's the breaking news on CNBC?
More.
Here you
Kelly,
go.
quite a long confab with reporters in the Oval Office.
Yeah, this is what I just covered all of this. Let's listen to their summary, though.
TikTok, as you mentioned, he said the TikTok deadline could be extended. He says he hopes to make a deal on TikTok and that he will make it worthwhile for...
Yes. The point about the Crimea thing is that the Crimean invasion was 2014. Just to clarify, okay? Yes.
We want that business back. He has threatened tariffs on chips. We don't have any further details on that at this time. He also said he is not concerned about countries shifting their business to China. And then one last point, given that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is planning to be at the White House later today, Trump also said that Elon Musk met with Prime Minister Modi earlier today, and Trump said he assumes that Musk wants to do business in India. So no further details on that, but more to look forward to as we await the full tape playback from this Oval Office spray, guys.
Megan, thank you very much.
Yeah, so basically the way this works is Trump kind of sits in the Oval Office and he talks to reporters. And I just broke down basically everything that was said because you have reporters and they're just typing out what the news is, what Trump is saying. So just so you know, that's how it works. That's why you don't have a video of Trump out yet, because that takes a lot longer to come out when it's not a live session. No, they don't televise the Oval Office. Sometimes they do. They'll do Oval Office addresses, but this wasn't televised. Trump does these sort of huddles with reporters. He doesn't actually go to the press room. He just has them come into the Oval Office. And then he just answers their questions, and he just sort of riffs about a bunch of topics. Now, those videos end up coming out later, but the instant news that, we just talked about and broke down, we get to cover right away, right? So I find that very interesting. So, but yeah, anyway, so you can kind of go through the summary of these news items, as we just broke down in this video here. So you can play back the video on 2X if you want. Okay, cool. So just doing a quick look, the markets are not really reacting to this, which means the markets don't really see this as an upending issue. In fact, if you look at the 10-year is down 11 basis points today after the PPI report, which is interesting because it came in a smidge hotter than expected. And oil is back under $75 on Brent. There was a lot of fear that oil prices were going to skyrocket. Okay, here's another update from Trump. It was a mistake to kick Russia out of the G7. Again, they get kicked out when Russia invaded Crimea in 2014, part of Ukraine then. And then sort of the illegal annexation and vote that Russia put together, this is now our territory, blah, blah, blah. That's when they got kicked out of the G7. But my point is that some say that was a catalyst that contributed to the 2022 invasion of the other part of Ukraine. Trump wants to conference with Russia and China on defense spending. He's also been talking about denuclearization. Okay, non-proliferation has been talked about for 20 years. I remember studying non-proliferation when I was 13 years old in school, and I'm 33 now. Okay, so everybody's talked about nuclear non-proliferation forever, but Donald Trump apparently now says, now we're actually going to do something about it. Nobody knows non-proliferation better than me. Okay. No reason to build nuclear weapons, he says. It looks like he's still going with reporters right now and kind of keep feeding you some of the updates here. But, if you also look at Oh, this is an interesting view. How much would tariffs rise? A VAT scenario? Yeah, so at the beginning of this video, I went through sort of a verbal list of what VAT tariffs look like in various different areas around the world, most of them centered in Europe. And so Donald Trump says we could have defense spending. Okay, well, we spend about $1 trillion a year. If you have that, because maybe you're giving less away to, Israel or Ukraine or whatever, or investing in or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw like Lockheed Martin go down on something like that, comment like that. We'll look at that in just a second. Let's see here. All right, take a look at this chart. This is an interesting one. How much could tariffs rise? A simple scenario. Reciprocal tariff increase on exports to the U.S. So these would be without the consideration of a VAT tax. So this would just be taxing countries like India, Vietnam, Indonesia, South Africa more. But if you include the definition of a VAT tax, you start seeing Sweden, Finland, Denmark, all those European countries I listed jump in over here. So this redefinition of a VAT tax is very, very broad. It basically means buckle up. We are now going to negotiate with every single country in the world demanding more dollars. Let's see. So, take a screenshot of that. I think that's going to be a useful one to keep in mind. Now, something else to watch. If we go to, let's see, let's try a Lockheed Martin, and then we'll see. Oh, dude, yeah, look at that. It's just the line looks pretty incredible. It's basically, what we predicted the moment you hear it. It's like, what? Have spending? Immediately, Lockheed Martin, massive red candlestick. This is a move really of only about 1.5%. It looks more dramatic than it really is. But, it shows you other people have the same thought. Like, what? You potentially going to have defense spending? So, Trump says we will seek discussions on reducing military spending. Yes. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, that's very well. Okay, good. So now what we've done is we've given pretty much all of the updates that we've gotten out of the Oval Office. So we've talked about extending TikTok. We've talked about the VAT tax definition. We've talked about car tariffs. We've talked about non-monetary tariffs. We've talked about which countries have high VATs. We've talked about with or without VAT taxes. We've talked about some of the Trump comments on India and the G7, Russia, China, denuclearization, Ukraine. Well, but, the betting markets, by the way, seem to think that we're getting pretty close to a solution in Ukraine, which is great. And Lockheed Martin is falling more at the moment. It's down now another 0.5%. But so far, it looks like you've got a 35% chance that Donald Trump ends the war in Ukraine within the first 90 days. You've got, will Putin meet with Trump in the first 100 days? That has a 62% chance at the moment. And then a ceasefire in 25 between Russia and Ukraine at the moment has a 65% betting market odd. Keep in mind, one of the, these betting markets are creating so much attention right now that you're actually getting Robinhood trying to triple down essentially on betting markets and getting people to get involved in whether it's event betting, sports betting, whatever. And their projections for revenue have blown up because of it. So good for them, I suppose. They're doing quite well. So very interesting. Okay, BRICS trading could face a 100% tariff at least. Oh, okay. All right. So that would be Brazil, Russia, India, China. Now, what's incredible about this, South Africa. What's incredible about this is a 100% tariff. I think what he's saying is not like tax all of their stuff at 100%. I think he's saying match the tariffs 100%. So like if they tariff us 10%, we tariff 10%. That is one way to potentially look at it, but it's a little unclear. So yeah, BRICS trading could be 100% tariff at least. Interesting. That's very interesting. Okay. By the way, quite a few of you joining the courses to get lifetime access to the Market Open live stream. We're doing it with course members now. We're together. You know, you get the lifetime access to the Alpha report as well. We do our fundamental analysis together. So like, you know, in January, we warned that Trade Desk could be running into problems because we were going through the earnings calls and we're doing fundamental analysis. And then today, Trade Desk is down 33%. So, you know, if you want some of those sort of early insights into what's going on in markets and fundamentals, make sure you're part of the courses over at meetkevin.com. The price will be going up a lot at the end of the month. It's because we got a bunch of new lectures coming out for Trumponomics, so that'll be really fun. A lot of cool things coming for course members, and we're live every single day with course members. And that's me, you know, so we can Q&A and dialogue or whatever you'd like. That's fun. So consider joining that over at meetkevin.com. If you have questions, email us at staff@meetkevin.com. So I think that's it that we have at the moment for updates from Trump. Let's see here. Yeah, we did hear RFK has the votes to get confirmed. That's true. We've talked about Supermicro quite a bit, especially in the courses, you know, and even in the Alpha report, which you could still get on the Meet Kevin website. You know, a lot of the pro has now probably been priced in. The question is, you know, are you going to continue to get CapEx spending? I think 44 might be sort of a local ceiling until you actually have an increase in growth again, more so than what's currently expected. Markets still think there is a deep-seek risk that's lingering, so we'll see about that. At this Apple-Tesla partnership, by the way, again, I think it's potentially CarPlay, and it looks like it's pushing Apple back into the 240s. You've got Tesla up 4.6% today. Supermicro's pretty close to that 44 level. That's a pretty strong level that we keep getting rejected off of. So watch that line. 44.44 is the one to pay attention to. It's pretty good. So then Trump will meet with U.S. Steel. A lot of companies are coming. Trump asked if he would mediate Nippon Steel. Trump says steel tariffs have given steel more power. Okay. Anything else here? All right. I think that's a pretty good summary of everything Trump just said. And it looks like now, since we're moving on to steel, it sounds like we're really going to wrap up here with the presentation. So anyway, there we have it. Thank you so very much for being here. I appreciate y'all. Consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll keep bringing you more updates as the news breaks. Goodbye and good luck.